Hi, everybody. It's September 5th, 2024, and this is the weekly Backdrop developer meeting. We get together every week to talk about development priorities for Backdrop CMS. It's been an exciting week in the world of Backdrop. We had the feature freeze for Backdrop 129, and so we're going to be talking about what got in, what didn't, and also some specific topics that people have submitted. Before we get going, we're going to do some introductions. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm a quick sketch on the internet. I'm core committer and tech lead for the Backdrop project. We've got a nice little group here today, and we'll go around and do some introductions. We'll start with Jen, and then we'll go to Wes.
I am Jen Lambton, joining from Oakland, California. I'm very excited about all the activity we're seeing in Kintrip these days.
Thanks, Jen. Wes, and then Joseph.
My name is Wes Rubalcaba. I'm in Chicago and yeah, hanging out.
Thanks, Wes. Joseph, and then Martin.
Hi, my name's Joseph. I'm a developer from Las Vegas, Nevada. And yeah,
Great.
excited for the release.
Martin, and then Luke.
Hello, I'm Martin Price, Backdrop web developer and contrib maintainer in Northeast England, United Kingdom.
Great. And Luke.
I'm Luke McCormick in Martinez, California, which is near San Francisco and Oakland. This week I'll say I'm a business analyst, and I also help out with I'm doing marketing for BADCamp for the Drupal Association, and every now and then for Backdrop.
Great. All right. Jen, do you want to do the contrib update? You're muted still.
Can we do it at the end? I'm not ready.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. All right. Let's see here. So 129. So let's talk about that first. I'll share my screen for starters here. So first of all, the 129 preview release is now available. We don't market the preview release on backdropcms.org. So backdropcms.org is still promoting the latest stable release, which is 128.2. But if you're on our GitHub project at backdrop/backdrop, under the releases section here, there is at the very top of the list the pre-release version for 129 preview. And yeah, we can go over the features and capabilities that got added. So I'll switch over here to the issue queue list and look at the list of closed items. There's some just housekeeping things, and I don't want to understate, the effort that went into them, but they don't have a lot of end user facing differences. But we updated three of our underlying libraries. We updated jQuery UI, which didn't used to have releases very often at all, but it was great to see jQuery UI came out with a new release, 114. So we updated that. While we were updating jQuery UI, we also updated TouchPunch, which is the library that makes jQuery UI's capabilities also work on mobile devices and touchscreen devices. And then we updated CKEditor to version 42. There's another version after that, 43, that has more backwards compatibility breaking stuff in it. And so we decided to hold off on going to the very latest release of CKEditor 5, probably until the next minor release, while we work out those compatibility issues. In my opinion, the most exciting feature of this release is the improvement to the installer. That this capability makes it so that instead of when you download Backdrop, just only showing English and then telling you if you want to, you can go and download other languages, but then you have to pop them into your files directory and then it shows you the other language choices. It now automatically pulls the list of languages from the translation server and then makes it so that you can select the language and then it downloads it from the translation server for you, puts it into the correct place, and then from the very first screen onward, you're going through the installer and the backdrop interface in the language that you've selected. So very excited to see this capability come to Backdrop. It was something that we didn't even have the ability to do when we first released Backdrop because we didn't have a translation server back then. But not only have we had a translation server for a long time now, it also is running on Backdrop, and so I'm excited to see this all come together. Let's see. We followed up. So Backdrop 128 included the new icon API where we have SVG icons throughout core now, or at least we're working on replacing all of the icons with SVGs. But the phosphor icon collection was added to core, which includes over 1,000 icons. And there are a lot of places that we can still add on or utilize those icons out of the box in core. And this was one such place that inside of views, we added a new field for files that you can render the Phosphor SVG icon for each file type. So for the ones that Phosphor actually provides icons for, at least things like WebP, for example, don't have a extension specific one, so they fall back to this general image icon. So that's a nice little enhancement building on top of our icons. Let's see. I think this issue got titled last time I looked at it. So we had two enhancements to layouts. So this is a UX improvement that from the content type screen, we added the ability to add a layout to a node type directly from the admin interface for content types. We've always had this capability to add a layout to a node type, but it was confusing to enable, where you had to go and add a new layout, and then you had to know the magic path, internal path of nodes is node/%, and then specify a content type to apply the layout to. And then you also had to know that there were that doing that enabled the ability to place individual fields inside of the layout. It was a lot of it required a lot of esoteric backdrop specific knowledge in order to add a layout to a node type. But that's one of the most common things that people want to do. And so in the end, the solution was I'm not sure that this is exactly the final one, but from the content types page, like let's say where you see page and post and card, you can click a manage layouts tab now, or select it from the drop button. And then there's an action link to add a layout to that particular node type or other entity types like users and taxonomy terms. And it very helpfully takes you to this abbreviated add layout form that lets you select the layout template. But then it also gives you this new capability to pre-select which field blocks you want to have on that entity specific layout. It doesn't limit you from doing other blocks later. That capability is all still there. This is basically like a shortcut wizard where it's like it's optimized for the use case of creating a layout onto an entity. Onto a particular type of entity. It's not like per node layouts. It's still across the entire content type. But yeah, still very useful optimization and surfacing this very powerful feature of Backdrop that is kind of hidden behind like a lot of esoteric knowledge requirements. Yeah, we talked about this one week after week, trying to figure out where the compromise was on like how this should ultimately land, and it kind of took the deadline of feature freeze for us to reach some compromises where we cut the stuff where we were unsure of, just focused on the things that we knew were going to be good, and then said, well, we'll see how this goes. And if we want to add more links and more shortcuts in more places, we can do that at a later time. Does anybody have any questions so far? I'm just feeling like I'm just kind of breezing through all of these.
I think that feature you just showed is fantastic. I can't wait to like spread the word about that. The per content type layout thing. We need a good name for it, that is super powerful and useful.
Yeah, the
And
way that it pre-populates the layout too is super cool, where it just like pops in all of those blocks for you. So you don't have to find, you don't have to click add block, add field, add block, add field. Like this, just check, 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 save, and then all the layout, all the field blocks are there already for you. It's very nice.
Thanks, Doc Wilmot.
Yep, Doc Wilmot. He gets the ribbon for most persistent developer for this release, because I mean, every time somebody made a suggestion, he would say, okay, here's another pull request, or here's another change. This issue had 4 pull requests, you can see, that were all by Doc Wilmot, but even that doesn't convey how many revisions this went through, because every pull request also had had a series of commits and changes to it. So very appreciative to Doc Wilmot for being so diligent and so persistent, accommodating everybody's requests. Let's see. So yeah, the other layout specific feature was this ability to add visibility conditions to layouts and to blocks based on the HTTP server code. So whether that's success, which is 200, access denied, which is 403, or page not found, which is 404. And this allows you to set up, well, a number of things, but the primary thing probably is that you can set up your access denied pages and your 404 pages to be more capable, by making it so that certain blocks, like you could use the default layout, for example, and then add a block to the default layout for your 404 pages that has a particular message there, but then you could also like hide expensive to generate blocks from your 404 page. Also, if you wanted to do a particular landing page, say something like slash login or something like that, where if you were unauthenticated, it would show the login form, but if you were authenticated, it might show you a dashboard. Then you can use one layout for 2 purposes, where it could be both a logged out version and a logged in version. Or sorry, not just a logged out version, but like a you need to authenticate version, and you have authenticated version, which is slightly different than like just checking user roles. I don't know. It's got its use cases. Even though you might be able to achieve this with other visibility conditions, it now gives us some additional flexibility. And let's see, what was the last thing? Okay, we did that one. Oh, I guess we had a third layout specific one. And this one's pretty minor, that it more or less just does this one thing where visibility conditions have always existed on paths as well as on layouts. It just so happens that not very many people were aware of the fact that paths could have visibility conditions. And so it just adds this one extra line to our landing listing page, indicating whether or not there are visibility conditions on paths, as well as onto the individual layouts. This is one of those kind of specific little pieces of knowledge that the visibility conditions on the path determine whether or not the menu item shows up, not the individual page. And so if you had put a layout into your navigation, for example, even if a user didn't have access to an individual layout, if they had access to the path, the menu item would show up, but then when they clicked into it, they might get a page not found. Putting the visibility conditions on the menu item makes so the menu item itself would disappear if the user didn't have access to see that overall path. The visibility conditions on layouts themselves is primarily meant to indicate whether or not that layout will apply or fall back to the default layout. But visibility conditions on the path is similar to visibility conditions within views, where it's like you're determining whether or not this overall URL is accessible. So that just clears that up.
Question or thought about this is, and technically this is probably accurate, but from a usability perspective, that column is labeled path, and then the settings on the right is menu settings. And for example, you just described how the visibility condition is attached to the menu item, but that's not obvious to me. Like if that said path setting on the right, then I might more think, I don't know. Like right now, my idea of what a menu setting is not what that is. Like I wouldn't expect to find this under menu settings, so I wouldn't click that button looking to like set the visibility setting on the path. So would path settings work under operations, or is that inaccurate?
Well, inside of menu settings, there's not only visibility conditions, but there's
Right.
also the menu item type, whether it's a normal menu
Yeah.
entry or a local task or a local action. So same as views.
Right.
And I mean, it's not just those things, but on the back end of things, the routing system within Backdrop is called the menu system, right?
Right.
And so like it's hook menu that provides the access checks. And so its menu is consistent even if it doesn't
Yeah.
line up with end user terminology
Right.
real great. So if we did change it to path settings, like
Yeah.
there would be a number of places in core that would be like a let's change
I see.
menu settings into path settings, including views.
Well, it may not make sense everywhere. Just for me here, it kind of menu just seems too specific based on what my knowledge. But again, that may not be accurate, and there might be a better fix. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we're at the intersection between programmers and end users where they're using the same words for different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better than
might be
us
worth-
starting to use programmer terms on the front end, which I mean, because really the most accurate thing would be route settings, but we're not going to say that.
This might be worth a follow-up issue, Tim, if you think that menu settings is not as useful as it could be. And if we do come up with some better language, it might be useful to change it everywhere. So just
I'll
naming
just say-
things is hard.
This whole thing has just as a lot of things around the layout system have been difficult for me to wrap my head around, and this is a new one. So I'm looking for ways like how can I help me wrap my head around it, and I don't know if I found the best way yet. I mentioned there's another PR I have that I want to talk about is just adding some help text to that how layouts work, which might be another way to help me wrap my head around that. So yeah, maybe I'll open an issue.
Would it maybe help just to take the word menu off that button, just have it be settings? If the actual word path there is throwing you off as much as it's guiding you in?
Well, we have another link that has settings in the underneath manage blocks. We have a layout setting. So that might be really confusing that these are settings that are specific to all layouts at this path. But yeah, So I don't know. I think we do need some disambiguation between the different kinds of settings.
Hmm.
But I don't know what the right word is there.
Was hoping I had my backdrop site up, but I do not. I can get it up, but
Where
it'll
is
take a
this
second.
menu? Where's menu setting is going right now?
It takes you to a page that has the well, this is why I wanted to pull it up because I don't think we have a picture of that. Okay, here we go. Structure layouts. So it takes you to a page that has the menu item type. So whether it's a normal menu entry or no menu entry. And I think in some cases it asks for, yeah, like if you have a title, like
Why would you change it? This looks like default backdrop Drupal thing.
So it does, like, once you open it up, 90% of it looks totally right. It's that access condition. That doesn't, like, I wouldn't expect to find that here because I don't think of that as a menu setting, even though it is. Okay. So, like,
So what is this access condition? Is it similar to what you would put in the menu when you're giving access? Is this access to this URL?
yes, yep, that's right.
Then instead of simply access condition, add one word menu access condition and live happily ever after. That's kind
well,
of more
no, except
2
it
bits.
doesn't help me because I would never get here to see the change you just made, right? The point is, if I were looking for this visibility condition, menu setting doesn't seem like the right place to find it, so I would never click on menu setting. But again, I don't want to belabor this point because there might be other solutions.
Yeah. Well, I think we're hoping like it didn't used to have this word, this sentence here, no condition set.
This is already helping. You've already
Yeah.
taken one step. So
Because a lot of users in the issue, almost everybody actually didn't even know that menu items had
Right.
visibility conditions.
Yep.
Because when you create a new layout, so if I add a new layout configuration and I just make it appear at /new, and so there's visibility conditions here. Let's say, let's see if user role is admin. Okay, and then just save the layout. So now what we've done, this new one here, it added the visibility condition to the layout, but it didn't add it to the menu path. And I think that's what is really throwing a lot of people off here is that as you go through the create a new layout like wizard or workflow, nowhere are you ever shown this page. You have to complete the layout, and then once you're done with the layout, then you have to go to the menu settings after it's been made. And I think that's what's throwing a lot of people off.
I do think the menu settings is sort of like most people who use layouts won't ever use menu settings. It's sort of a, 20% use case or something like that. So the fact that most people don't know it's there probably hasn't been an issue. When you get
Right.
into that 20%, then you're like, where's the thing? How do I change the thing? And that's when it can get super frustrating.
I think
Yeah.
that's true. I think this is not something that like I even looked for before or needed, felt like I needed. Now that I know it's there, I think like, oh, maybe I could use it. Right.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's exactly why it was added, because no, it was surfacing secret functionality, basically that no one was very well aware of. But that's it for the 129 list of capabilities. There's a couple that we're still looking to tidy up a little bit. It's too bad Wes dropped off because one of them is this UX issue here is one of his where this just affects the admin menu when the admin bar goes too far off the side of the menu, off the side of the page. So like, let's see if I can do this. Okay, there we go. So like when a menu item folds back onto itself, and especially in this situation where it's covering up its parent, this pull request helps visualize or helps make clear a little bit that the menu item has popped backwards and is starting to overlay the menu parents above it. And it does that just with some drop shadows and some borders. But this issue still needs a little bit of tidying up to get it to completion. But UX improvements like this are still capable of getting in between now and the 129 release, which will be September 15th. So there's a couple of issues like this. And actually, we even can still add more issues into the 129 milestone as long as they're still under the UX category. And of course,
Is,
they have a low risk of breaking anything.
is this a CSS change?
Yeah, this
And
is,
it goes into admin menu module.
I believe so. Yeah, admin bar.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, admin bar module. Okay.
Yeah, and the original fix actually works pretty well, but it has an RTL issue. That the selectors are just in the wrong spot on this one. I think. Yeah. All right. But do you guys have any other 129 comments or questions about the upcoming release? Great, thumbs ups. All right, well, we've got some general topics here as well. Tim, you posted 2 issues to the forum. We'll start with 6651. Do you want to run down the suggestion here? Do you want me to share my screen again? Oh, okay.
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
Having got here late, I haven't queued that up to refresh my memory which one you're talking about. Okay, so what I was doing was just looking for a few issues that seemed like they were kind of close, but maybe needed to be unstuck. This one I think I just suggested because there was a problem that came up. PR was there. People said it was a good idea. But like, is this something we want to? It was something that maybe we could get in if it makes sense. I think there was some suggestions on how to make it better. Is kind of where it was left at.
Oh, okay.
Didn't somebody else comment on it besides Herb Duel?
I was about to say, I thought we already did this issue, but it looks like this is a follow-up to one that we did already do, which is, yeah, so this is in 128.3. So this is also in the preview release, but it's a bug fix item. So the order of the templates wasn't quite right for entity types. Like the most specific one wasn't the one that was being used. And then we also added a more specific one that was like both, like if you have an entity ID and a view mode, then it will do that one too. Yeah, okay, so here it is. So now this is now the order in which the suggestions are made. But I'm curious what this one is. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Yeah, I'm gonna need to review this one a little bit. It seems like there's still some hiccup in here.
I looked at this pretty quickly and might have been confused with the old issue. Anyways, or either way, it just sort of trying to identify some things that might be helpful to get into the bug fix release here. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. It's just saying we should standardize this. That's what it's saying. Like right now, each one of them is kind of manually assembled, and we should make make it be the same for all different types of entities. Because if you add another entity type, like a custom one, the template suggestions aren't automatic. You need to add them yourself.
I see. Okay.
Okay. So this is not a change that would really affect the core functionality at all.
Oh, and this is listed as a feature request, so maybe it's not not eligible for the bug fix at all, or is it? I think maybe that's why I flagged it. Was just, is this really a feature request, or could this get into?
It might
Bug
need
fix.
automated tests, and automated tests
Okay,
make things
Yeah.
into new features.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say the risk here might be higher than we'd want for before release. Okay. Still, I appreciate you going through and finding issues. So you got another one here too.
Yep. Okay, yeah, this one I actually have something invested in.
Okay.
So I actually, this is an old issue. It's been labeled as a task, so theory it could get in. I think I took and revived a very old PR and sort of got it working. It's kind of stalled because Greg, the last comment that Greg made was, I think there should be a better way to do this, but there's no idea what it is. So I'm just feeling a little bit stalled. Like, okay, is there a better idea or not? Because other than that, there's no other problems with this PR. And so I just like somebody else to look at it. And it's not an issue I feel strongly about. It's an old one that's hanging out there that I think we have a working solution for. And let's just decide, do we like it or not? If we don't, that's fine. So you could look at this later, or we don't have to talk about it now, but I'd just like some attention on it.
Yeah, I think we do have the time right now if we wanted to
Okay.
talk about it. So conceptually here, it's exactly what it says in the title, which is just when you turn on contact module, it would add to the main navigation a contact menu item.
Right.
I feel ambiguity on, or not ambiguity.
Right.
I feel both ways about it because like on a new site, if I'm site building, and it hasn't launched yet, this is exactly what I would want. That I want, because I'm not even sure where the contact form goes when I turn on contact module, right?
Right.
You have to kind of know where its path is and then add it to the menu. But on a site that has been launched,
Right.
you know, turning on contact, I don't expect something to modify my navigation. But I guess if I'm on a production site and I'm turning on modules, then maybe that is what I expect, you know?
Yeah. I feel like if it's a production site and you turn on a module and an item appeared, you would notice right away. And you'd be like, oh, that's not what I want. And you could remove it. I feel like this is a much bigger help to the community by having it appear automatically than it is a hindrance for people who have already launched their sites and are turning on modules.
So it used to be, we've already made one little, like it used to be what I had an experience where I turned on the contact module and then I had no idea what had happened or where to find it. And I couldn't find it anywhere. Like I had to really search to find it. We have since fixed that by adding a link. I forget exactly where, that sort of takes you to the contact page, which isn't that hard. It's just /contact, but you have to know that. Anyways, that's sort of been partially resolved. So I think there's a settings page for the contact module, and now the link to the page is on that settings page. So that helps. This, again, so I don't feel strongly like we need this, but that would be the first decision. Do we actually want this to happen? And if we do, then is this solution okay, or do we need a better solution? Which is what Greg has sort of alluded to. It's like, this isn't the right solution. But he hasn't really said why, and he hasn't said what the better solution is. So in the meantime, my PR just sits there like, and it isn't even my PR, it's somebody else's that I took over, which is something I've been doing lately, is finding old PRs that have been abandoned and just trying to reinvigorate them and see if we can.
I love it.
Would it help to have a message show up saying, you know, we've added this to the contact menu, just as like a extra little prod?
Yeah, it looks like it does do that in the. It says it right here on install.
Oh, look at that.
Yep.
I didn't see it. You just turned it on though, and I didn't see it when on your screen share.
Well, that's because I'm not running this pull request. That was just that's our current 1.x. Yeah.
Another
Alright.
option is we could put a setting on the settings form that's like, add this to my menu. And then if you clicked that, it would appear there. And then if you didn't, and that way, like any existing site would have the option to check the box and add a menu link. I don't know if they're going to want that or not, but it's
So-
already installed.
Greg had provided an alternative PR, which was like one line of code that simply added a menu item but didn't enable it. And I think he's looking at my code and saying that's too complicated. But the whole point of this PR was to enable the link. So he's kind of like, he's like, I want this PR to be as simple as mine, but mine doesn't do what it should. And like, I don't know how to do what he wants to do simpler. So that's what I'm sort of getting at is it, you know, am I missing a better way to do this? Or if we want it, is this PR good enough and should we just get it over with?
Yeah, so I'm guessing he does, yeah, that menu suggested item.
Right.
Uh,
Which is great, but it doesn't enable the menu item. It just makes it available to be enabled.
yeah, totally. I don't like suggested items. I don't like that it like puts something into your menu that if I remember, you can't actually even delete it. It always stays there, but you can disable it, but you can't remove it because it's like always there. I don't like suggested menu items at all. And so honestly, I like your approach. Just add it to the menu. It's just a normal menu item, and if you don't like it, then you can delete it. I think that is I think that's vastly preferred, and in the way that working with the way Backdrop functions, I think that's a better solution. But I bet Greg's point here might be like, well, if our current solution for menu suggested items is bad, like why is it there?
We could
Which
add a setting and the suggested item. So I keep making things more complicated, so this is maybe not a good suggestion. But as another option, we could have the suggestion item and then have a setting on the contact form page that's like add a menu item. And when you do that, the suggested item appears on the list. And then when you uncheck that box, that permanent item that you can't ever remove gets removed.
interesting.
I don't know if that's better or worse than just having a menu item you can delete.
Anyway, well, we don't have to resolve this right now. I wanted to point that out, and I'm not going to be devastated if this doesn't go anywhere. Just trying to like unblock it, like, right? Decide, do we want to proceed or not? Instead of me keep coming back to it and wondering, is this going to go anywhere?
Also, if it's there at install, would that need tests?
Well, contact module isn't turned on by default in the standard profile, but yes, we would want test coverage to make sure that the menu item appears when the module's turned on and goes away when the module's turned off.
Well, if that would then make it a feature request, then
Yeah.
we could table this because it's listed as a task right now. So I was trying to focus on things that could still get in. So
Yeah, I think there is a solution to this problem that makes it a task, but I think the one we're pursuing right now turns it into a feature. Yeah.
well, I'm fine with that. There's obviously no urgency to this. Well, I'll convert it to a feature release. I mean, we still are a feature request. We still the same question, and I guess I'll make a comment that so is there any reservations? Obviously, it still needs a more detailed code review, but if people think, can I say the consensus seems to be that this is a suitable solution and we just need a code review? The one other issue that somebody did raise is that if this works on the install profile, right? So it creates that link, but if you disable the link or delete it, and then if you disable the module and then re-enable it, it won't happen the second time, which I think is not a problem.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, I agree that it's not a problem, especially like disable and enable. Like if you deleted it, it shouldn't come back when you turn it back on. Then it looks like if you oh, I see. But if the menu item still exists and then you disable it, it deletes the menu item, but then when you turn it back on, it doesn't come back.
Right. Exactly. 'cause
What happens if you leave the menu item there
Can we
and
change that from,
there's no path? Does it hide itself anyway because it goes to a 404, or does it
no,
leave the link there in 404 when you click on it?
disable is also like disabling is temporary. I don't think we should be deleting anything on disable. That should be on uninstall, it gets deleted.
I agree.
Okay.
I think that uninstall is more correct.
Because people might turn it off and turn it on again for any number of reasons, and then if they can't get their menu item back, that could be frustrating. And
Yep.
then if you uninstall and reinstall, you should get the menu item back.
Wait, but Jen, then don't you run into the situation where you've got a link on so I've got a contact link in my menu. I disable the module. And now the link is still there, but it links to nothing.
I don't think that's how it works. I think if there's no path, the menu item won't render.
Okay. I'll have
Well,
to test.
you can test that.
I can
Yeah,
test-
but
we should
the
test that.
menu item will still be there. Like if you went to
Yeah.
the navigation or main menu and
Right.
edited it, you'd see the link there.
Sure.
I
was worried
believe.
I was worried it would still be visible on the front end and maybe
It,
not.
Well,
it
let's
might
test
be. I'm
it.
not sure.
Yeah, everybody's like, don't hold me to my words.
I kind of
Yeah.
think that it was, but I'll double check that.
And
Yeah.
if we want it disabled, I think that's a better option for when you disable the module, we also disable the menu link. Right, and then when you uninstall the module, we uninstall the menu link. Try and make those match, so like
Oh,
there is an
yeah.
option to disable a menu link.
Yeah,
Right.
you're
We should
right.
do that.
If it does still show and it links to a 404 page, yeah, the ideal thing would be to on
Disable.
module disable the menu item, and then
Yep.
on enable it again.
Very good. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, good suggestion, Jen. Yeah, but I like it. I think it's working well with what we have. Then yeah, the entire question about menu suggested items needs some more consideration. Yeah, I like how it puts it in the right spot. Like it puts it at the end. That just makes a lot of sense. And it's almost all for contact modules specifically. It's usually the last menu item anyway. So it puts it in a good spot.
What's the issue number for this?
1572.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
Another very old one.
Yeah, not quite. Oh, yeah. Speaking of it, issues that we tried really hard to get in, but we didn't quite. We had a last minute surge for what was it? Issue
Number
147.
Yeah, 146, 147, one of those two, I think.
40. There it is. Recent content block to view. 146. Almost got it in here that there's this ancient request that there's this block called recent content that is an administrative view that's not enabled by default nor shown anywhere. And we just have never, or administrative listing, but we've never bothered to convert it to a view. And so we almost got this completed, but it was not passing tests. So maybe 130
Yeah.
we'll finally get around to this long standing
10
old
years later.
listing. Yeah, this is incredible. It was opened back in 2014, which is before the release of Backdrop 1.0. Yeah, follow up to issue number 40, which was add views to core. Yeah, this is like the lowest of low priorities though, because it's not used anywhere. It doesn't do any harm. It's actually not even very useful once you enable it. So, yeah.
It's out of the box. It's not that useful, but it could be. But if it's a view, it's modifiable, and that's the reason to do it, right?
Yeah.
Is
As
that
a view, it makes way more sense.
Yeah, and people can then make it useful. But probably the out of the box settings won't be that great.
Yep. So yeah, maybe 130. It's in the milestone. Okay, we've got just a couple minutes left. I'm not sure we're gonna have time to go over this issue that Martin raised. Martin, you want to recap what brought this up again for you?
It's basically at the moment we have a URL form of database credentials which fails for complex passwords. We've got the Drupal 7 way, which you've got there, which is confusing for users with the kind of whole default. And so we were looking at whether we could do a simple array of the database, which supports complex, any one of those being complex. Most common one is complex password. I created a pull request that updated it to this, and it did a bit of complex looking at the settings file for the number of lines that was going to be in the default settings after this change to then repopulate it with the values. Greg then sort of came along and said, well, that's not really robust enough, which is a fair point. Greg started working on a system that would use a function called tokens get all, which is a PHP function to process the settings, but that's kind of stalled, and we've basically got this point where we're not moving any further forwards on this, because so what I wondered is whether if I was to say split it off and just kind of make this new database array supported, so Backdrop would read this database array and it was documented in settings.php and in the documentation that you could do it, but it dropped the install bit, which seems to be having a problem. Now that does lose some of the thing in that if you there is a linked issue 2904, which is basically if you put a complex password in, then it can break and it won't connect. So I was partly also trying to fix that. And it's not going to do it, but so it's just trying to work out how we can move this forward. And one suggestion I had was just making sure that we can support this different thing, even if we don't do anything different as in install. You're muted, Nate.
Yeah, we'll need to look at it. I remember this commentary that the way that we rewrite settings.php could be improved, but quite honestly, like we rewrite a lot of settings.php, not just this one line. There's other things that are arrays in there as well. And as long as the code that we have is capable of doing these replacements, I don't think that we need to be worried too much about improving the rewriting capabilities of settings.php. That's a separate thing. Yeah, I mean, Greg's probably thinking is like, well, if we don't fix it now, we won't fix it ever, which might be true, but it also doesn't matter because like the rewriting of settings.php is for one purpose, and that's the installer. And so if it doesn't work in every situation, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I'm fine with
so
saying,
you could say unblock this and try and progress with the original thing, but say, yeah, if we can rewrite it better in the future, great, but for now we'll rewrite it as we couldn't really rewrite it.
Yeah, if that's the easy way forward, I think that would be the way that we should proceed.
Great.
And then we can also discuss the other things here. Like I think this is we're kind of out of time here. The the issue is that we thought that this syntax would make life easier for people, but it's turned out to be problematic because you have to encode the username and the password, and it's made it really difficult for people to use passwords that contain characters because you have to encode it, and now it's like it's lost the whole point of trying to make it easy by making it hard. Plus, we also have database prefix and the UTF-8 MB4 support, which are also just messy things to tack on here. So it turns out the array syntax provides more usefulness than we had originally thought. So yeah, so I'm fine with this. Yeah, I think maybe we could. It'd be nice if we could shorten this up a little bit, but because the one of the things that we originally started with was finding your database connection string should be near the top of the file, like, and not
Yeah.
shoved down under 300 lines of documentation, which is what it is in Drupal. And
Yeah.
so
Did it-
it's like, if it's hard to figure out, just link over to the documentation page.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna recommend is like rather than having any documentation in here about the
Mhm.
array syntax. Just be like, if you have a complicated setup, just exactly like this list is, where it's like, if you have any of these things, check this documentation.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, we ran through all the time. Thank you everybody for joining and suggesting topics. Again, great job everybody on the 129 release. We had a heck of a surge, kind of as usual, over Labor Day weekend. But it was really, yeah, especially Labor Day itself. It was firing on all cylinders for us, and I was really pleased to see that. Other than the issue that Tim came up with at the very last minute, we got we got all of the target issues that we started the weekend with completed. That one convert a view was actually started sometime in the middle of the weekend, hoping that we could finish it in 48 hours, which we made a lot of progress, but that one's gonna wait. So yeah, thank you again. Yeah, we'll close for today, and we'll move on to the design and UX meeting, which is right after this. So
Really,
thank you,
really
everybody.
quick, can I just say we got 2 new Contrib group members and I
Oh,
want to
yeah.
thank them for all of their work. These are Tim's team members and they have done a lot of work on previous Contrib modules. So just to say a quick thank you to Sudipto68 and B.
Alan Its name is
Dallengear?
Alan
Dallengear. So welcome, thank you.
All
That's
right.
it.
Thank you, everybody.